What's good? What's good? What's going on, everyone? What's going on, everybody? Um, just on my way to work. Got my chef jacket on and all. Um, thought I might record a video before I go in. So I've been doing a lot of audio recordings. I got a lot of audio recordings, but I don't have too much video recordings. And I figured that you know what, the audio recordings is good, but it's forgive me, by the way, I'm trying to get like a real good angle. Yeah, the audio recordings are good. However, I believe when you can actually see see the individual, I believe sometimes the message can be a little bit more impactful. And also, I'm a low-key brother. I'm a low-key brother. I'm a poet. I'm a natural poet. I'm a born poet. So words are something that's a gift, but when the camera is on, it's more of a challenge. And that's an area that I'm trying to improve on, as far as being able to express myself freely when the camera is on. I'm a little bit more reserved. I'm more comfortable just recording my thoughts. I'm just as passionate, but I'm more comfortable. As far as the attention, it's not necessarily about the attention. The message, however, the message is what truly matters. So I'm learning how to get better at that. And I don't like no kind of distractions. Sometimes people will look at you, they'll be like, oh, you know what, dude got a lot of weight, this and that, what's going on in the background? So I always like to focus strictly on the message, and that's why I've previously done a lot of audio recordings. However, I said, you know what, let me start recording some videos where you can actually see. So yeah, I got about 20 more minutes before before I go into work. So I said, let me capture some thoughts. So today, what I want to talk about, the misconception or miseducation of knowledge. And the way we perceive and the way we inhale and intake knowledge. I don't want to get too in depth into the conversation, because this is damn near an hour-long conversation. So I'm gonna try to minimize my thoughts to a certain degree. However, I do want to say, so the misconception of knowledge. I think that knowledge can be detrimental or poisonous, and that statement itself sounds very idiotic. However, let me make sense of it, because a lot of times what happens is, a lot of us, we get our knowledge from that same well. We read the same books. We've been taught by the same school systems. We are heroes. We worship the same heroes. Very rarely do people think outside of the box. We don't think outside of the box like that. So if everybody is dipping their bucket in that same well to get that same amount of knowledge, that means that everybody think the same. And to me, that's when it becomes detrimental, because knowledge, wisdom and knowledge is everlasting. It's everlasting. Like that abundance and that richness of knowledge is almost endless. So if knowledge is endless, but yet everybody's thinking the same, and everybody's basically cutting from that same pot of knowledge, then there's so many different perspectives that gets missing from the equation, because everybody's dipping from that same pool, going to that same well. So, and me, I would like to think that I'm a little bit different, and I can explain why. Because a lot of times people say they're different, but when you hear them talk, they have the same angle, the same perspective. Here's the unique thing that makes me different. I don't dip into that same well of knowledge. I always say this: the greatest book I don't read a lot of books, by the way. That is not something that I would recommend for certain individuals. The reason why I don't read a lot of books, I'm gonna tell you. There's one book that I read, and when I read this book, I was like, you know what? I don't need to read another book in my life, because this book is so rich with knowledge and wisdom that I don't need to read no other book. I don't need to read nothing else, because the amount of knowledge and wisdom that is contained in this book is endless. And that book is so rich with the knowledge that even to this day I'm still like on different chapters. And I know what some people probably thinking, especially my religious people. Some people probably thinking, oh, you know what, he's talking about the Bible. The Bible, believe it or not, is a book. And the Bible is limited. Yeah, that's right, I said it. It might sound blasphemous, but unapologetically, it is what it is. That's just my opinion, and nobody's not going to change that. So the book that I'm talking about is the book of nature, the book of life. When you read, when you learn how to read the book of life, the amount of wisdom and knowledge is just it's endless. So some people might be thinking, some people might be a little confused, like, so how do you read the book of life? How do you read the book of nature? There's the reason why people don't read and they don't see life as a book. They don't know how to read it. They don't know how to read life. Life is a game of chess. And people busy out here playing checkers. No, life is a game of chess, and believe it or not, life and nature itself is a book. Everything that mankind learns, all of the knowledge, even the knowledge in any book, even the book of the Bible, any book that you can take, any book, that book is a recording. It's a recording of someone's experience, life experience, or an experience that people record that happened in nature. So nature itself is the source. So me, I like to cut out the middleman. So I'm like, you know what? Why read the book when I could just go to the source and obtain the knowledge? Now that's for me. It took years and years of studying. It took years and years of studying and learning how to read life, learning how to read nature. So how do you read life? How do you read nature? In order to read life and read nature, you need certain principles. And there's certain tools, certain instrument that you need to use. And many people lack these tools. They have the innate ability to do it, but they can't do it because they're too busy distracted. They get lost in that distraction of life. And what these tools are, in order to read life and read nature, the book of nature, the book of life, you need silence. You need silence. Because some things aren't meant to be read out loud. Because what you do when you read in a book, you read in it, then you are inherently obtaining the knowledge, or you are inherently obtaining the material. Whatever message that's in that book, you are absorbing that message. That's the same concept with life, the same concept with nature. You just sit and you just absorb. You absorb the knowledge, you absorb life, you absorb nature. But in order to do that, you need silence. Just go somewhere and just sit down. Just go to the park, go to a beach. Just go somewhere and think. And in the midst of your silence, what you're actually doing is you're absorbing You're thinking, you're digging deep within. You're digging deep within in order to obtain a knowledge that exists within you, that's buried under years of BS. The knowledge is already within us. It's just our job to discover it. So you need silence. And not just silence. You need humility. Humility plays a key role. Because the reason why humility is important is because you can have the silence, but if you ain't humble enough to just be patient, if you ain't humble enough to be patient, then you go, oh man, I'm just sitting down. Hey, what is this? Ain't nothing happening. No, it's a spiritual process. It's a spiritual process, a process of transformation. So when you sitting down in the midst of your silence, you have to humble yourself and just let that knowledge reciprocate into your soul. And I'm not trying to get too deep, like I said, because I can go on forever. So you need silence, you need humility, you need patience. Because some people, especially in today's day and age, with the technological advances, people are so busy. They can't sit with themselves. People they need an excuse to escape silence. They need an excuse to escape silence. So people can't be silent. They can't sit in the room by themselves. Because you know what happens when you sit in the room by yourself? It opens your mind. You forced to use your imagination. You forced to think. People don't think nowadays because they just react. They like music. I have to play my music, or I have to look at my phone, watch a video. They can't just sit there and absorb silence. And that's why people can't read nature, because they don't have the patience to be silent. So you need the patience in order to be silent. Because some people sit here for 2 minutes to pass, and automatically they just get up and they, I can't take this no more. So you need the patience, you need the humility in order to absorb that silence. And the last thing that you need, one of the last things that you need, is discernment. So when you sitting there and you have the patience, right? And you're being humble because you're like, okay, I'm searching for something. I don't know what it is I'm searching for, but I'm searching for something. You have to have that discerning spirit, that discerning wisdom to be like, oh, okay, I get it. You ever been in a bind and you like, damn, I got to figure something out. I got to figure this out. I got to find a way out. I'm in a maze. I'm in a trap. And you sit there and that's what you're doing. When you sit there, like, oh, what's the plan? What's the plan? What's the plan? And all of a sudden, boom, something hits you. And when it hits you, you just have to figure out, okay, you know what? That's what this means. You have to know how to interpret it, because if you interpret that wisdom or that knowledge in the wrong way, you can veer off in the wrong direction. So that's truly, how you read life, how you read the book of nature. You read the book of nature by being silent. People talk too much. People talk too much, and people don't like to be silent. They don't like to be quiet. But nature, every single thing that mankind gets from nature. It gets from nature. From medicine and pharmaceutical, in every single thing. It gets from nature. It's a parody. It's a replica, of nature. A facsimile of nature. Everything, every ounce of knowledge that man obtained, he obtained it by using nature, by studying nature. So you study the source. And to go back to my original point, people don't do that. People read other people's interpretation. So if everybody have the same interpretation and the same perspective, then it's like we all will be lost. We all think the same. We all do this the same. Nobody thinks outside of the box. And me, I would like to think, I would like to think. I know that I think outside of the box, because oftentimes my perspective on an issue is often different. And it comes off as nonsense sometimes. But what people don't realize, I always say this, nonsense actually makes sense. It's just that what happens is a lot of the times people can't make sense of it. So nonsense makes sense, but you just have to be wise enough to make sense of it. Because sometimes the smartest person is the person who you think is the fool. But you just don't have the rationale. You just don't have that comprehensive mindset to actually understand where he's coming from. And everybody comes from the same angle. Life is just multifaceted, multidimensional. We see things like one-dimensional, two-dimensional. There's so much different dimensions, so much different thoughts, so much different angles. Everything ain't just right or wrong. There's nuances to things. It ain't just about being right or wrong. Sometimes it's right and wrong. The answer is right or wrong, or wrong. It's not just always like a black and white issue. There's so many underlining understanding within that gray area. But we oftentimes get lost in the sauce. So yeah, man, knowledge is just it's beyond just what we think. And I can go, like I said, I could go into so much details. I'm just pretty much just setting up the premise for a greater debate, for a greater argument. I'm just ruffling the feathers a little bit, just sprinkling some crumbs, but I plan on recording a little bit more videos just to really get in depth into a conversation and to really challenge people's way of thinking, because people's way of thinking is so minuscule, and sometimes even the smartest among us think the same. Think the same. And I always say I'm not I'm not necessarily knowledgeable and smart, and like, this is a whole nother door. I don't even want to go down here because this conversation is just so everlasting, but wisdom is what you should seek. Wisdom and knowledge, and there's different levels to knowledge. There's knowledge that you learn in school that's being disguised as knowledge. And there's knowledge that you learn from life experience. Knowledge that you learn from observing nature. And to me, that's true knowledge. That's the true fulfillment. Because the things that you learn in school, you're learning that from somebody telling you that that's knowledge. No, a lot of times that's foolishness. That's BS. That's political. That's political BS. A lot of politics plays a lot of role in that, because those things you wasn't there. You don't know if these things, these occurrences in history actually exist, or if it exists the way in which they recorded it or said that it exists. You're just having hope and belief that, hey, they said this happened. It's in the book. It's in the history book, so it might have happened, and we never challenge it. But the best way to challenge some things is just to go out in nature and just absorb and just study things internally. Because so oftentimes we always think that direction move from north to south to east to west. But no, a lot of the times you can go in a circular pattern, northeast, northwest. No. Sometimes it's internal and external. There's so much depth to it. Like I said, I'm only scratching the surfaces with these conversations. This is just the beginning of a greater conversation. But I just wanted to roll the red carpet out on the next recording. I'm going to really open people's eyes to certain things and to some perspective that's going to make people say, oh my God, that is crazy. That's crazy. But you know, one thing that I always try to do in my thought, my writing, my poetic writings, I challenge people. But I don't just challenge people empty-handedly. I like to bring receipts, as they say, you know. So it's the depth, you know. I don't just leave things out there and then leave it incomplete. No, I get real down and dirty. So on the next recording, I definitely will be you know, recording some stuff and getting a little bit more into details of some of the things that I'm talking about. That can and the main important thing, and I'm gonna end with this, you know, a lot of these thoughts, you know, have to deal with my people, my black people, us as black people. That's my audience, that's my family, that's my lineage, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of the things that I speak on, you know, is for my black people. And we always thinking about our past, we always talking about our past, we always talking about slavery and this and things that the obstacles that we faced, you know, to make it to where we are, you know. So a lot of the times our focus is so much in the past that it dims the light of our future. We don't really focus on our future that much. You get what I'm saying? And sometimes a wise man, and that's why I say knowledge could be misleading. They say, well, in order to get to where you're going, you got to know where you came from. Well, I don't know about that, because if you keep the focus on where you came from, you'll never get to where you're going. You get what I'm saying? We think about our past so much, and we always bringing up slavery. We always bringing up this, which a lot of times might be justified. But no, the focus should be the road ahead. How do we move forward? How do we overcome these obstacles? How do we overcome these hurdles? You get what I'm saying? We don't ever think about that future. We so stuck in the past. You get what I'm saying? And if we always thinking about the past, we'll never focus on that finish line, that destination. It's always going to be a process, but we must keep our focus that way, you know, keep our focus ahead, keep it ahead, you know. So yeah, so that I'm gonna sign off on this video. The recordings, the vocal recordings that I have is just it's crazy. But I'm like I said, I'm starting to do more video recordings. So this one I'm gonna just sign off. This is just the blueprint, just the beginning of something, you know. I plan on sharing, you know, because what good is having the key if you ain't really showing anybody, you know, you ain't really expressing yourself. And I always told myself, I don't want to die naked. I don't want to die with the key, you know, die with the answers. Think about it. There's so much people with so much potential, you know, but you can't be selfish with it, you know. So if you have the answer to a question that the world is seeking, but yet you don't want to share, and yet you die with that information, you die with that knowledge. You know, if you ain't trying to invent something, you ain't trying to create something, or you ain't trying to contribute or add your perspective, add your unique perspective. If someone says the answer is A because of this, someone said the answer is B because of this, they explain, you know, why they feel the answer is B. Someone explained the answer is C and D, and you sitting back in the back of the classroom and you like, oh, I got a whole different, I think the answer is really Z. You know, and you have a whole different perspective and philosophy, you know, and breakdown as to the reason why all of them is wrong. But if you sit there in the back and you never say something, you never say nothing, you know, what good is the use? What good is your perspective if you don't share it? And one of the things that I've often done, you know, I've written centuries, you know, load of material, you know, so I have to do a better job of sharing, and that's what I plan on doing. So I'm signing off. Till next time, Mask out.